I'm here with Marianne, the Chief Economist of the Sustainable Development Network. Welcome at the German Development Institute.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Fay, you're joining us today to present the World Bank report, Inclusive Green Growth, the Pathway to Sustainable Development. Before we delve into the report, though, can you please describe why you find it quite valuable or interesting to interact with think tanks like ourselves, the German Development Institute?
Interacting with the research community in general and think tanks in particular helps us achieve three things. One is we need more rigor in the work that we do, and that's where the research community is extremely important. Second is we interact a lot with policymakers, decision makers, and we get a sense of what are some of the key questions that are being asked. So it's useful for us to try to influence what some of the think tanks and what the researchers are doing. And then the third thing that's extremely helpful to us is to interact so that we learn to speak with a common language. We do things differently, we rely on different disciplines sometimes, but it's really important that we coordinate our message so that what the outside world hears is some kind of a symphony rather than a cacophony of different opinions.
That's a good aspect of the common language, because now let's talk about the report, Inclusive Green Growth. In your opinion, what are the 2 or 3 most important messages of the report?
The key message of the report is that green growth is necessary if we want to achieve sustainable development. It is efficient, and that's what makes it affordable, but it is challenging. And the challenges are not what people usually talk about, which is that it's too expensive or we don't have the technology. The challenges are threefold. One, it's complex political economy that we need to tackle. Second, we need to change behavior. And as all of us know, it's very difficult to change people's behavior. The third thing is that when you move from a traditional investment, say in a thermal power plant, to a hydro or a green investment, you change from something that doesn't cost too much to build, but costs quite a lot to run, to something that costs a lot to build and is basically free to run. So you're changing the investment profile to have it all up front, which is a huge challenge for developing countries.
Yeah, a lot of institutions are working on similar ideas. How does the World Bank's report, Inclusive Green Growth, relate, for example, to UNEP's Green Economy Initiative or the great transformation work done by the German Advisory Council on Global Change?
So the reason we want green growth is because we want to achieve a green economy. And the only way we will have a green economy is by having green growth. So these are just two sides of the same coin. But it's actually very helpful that UNEP uses the terminology green economy because in many ways, they address a slightly different audience than us. We tend to speak more perhaps with ministries of finance and the kind of people who really care about growth, whereas UNEP tends to have a slightly different audience for whom the focus is more on the economy than on the growth per se. As to the great transformation, I think what was very useful, going back to our earlier discussion about having a common message but using different languages, the Great Transformation had very similar messages than ours on the urgency, on the importance of political economy, and so on. However, it called in a lot of different disciplines, which we didn't. Ours was a very narrow economic report. And the Great Transformation brought in sociology and history and brought in all sorts of other themes that help really drive the message forward. So I see all these reports as highly complementary.
Dr. Fay, thank you so much for joining us today here at the German Development Institute in Bonn.
Thank you.